This is Britton Colquitt, Super Bowl 50 champion, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime, Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on TV, thanks for doing that, as well as everybody streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer. And by the way, folks, listen, in case you've just tuning in to the show for the first time, there is a little giveaway going on here, and it's by Vacation Buddies. And if you're looking for a couple of nights in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, you've come to the right place. If you can answer a simple trivia question, here's the question. Which NBA superstar out of these four has won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Michael Jordan, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, Kobe Bryant, or D, Magic Johnson? If you know the answer, call 888-576, who are not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in Vegas or in Orlando or in Branson, Missouri. If you can answer that simple trivia question, 888-576-577. Call now. All right, let's get into it. So, thinking about these great athletes, and we always have our favorites, and everybody asks me because I'm from a particular place, and everybody wants to know about the famous athletes from my particular location. I'm from Chicago, so they say, well, who are the greatest athletes in Chicago, da-da-da-da, all that kind of stuff. Same thing they do it in L.A., same thing they do it in New York, and Miami, and Houston, and Dallas, and Denver, and pick your favorite city. And so we also think of what could they do? What could these great athletes do? What were they capable of? And the first thing I think of is, what about these multi-sport athletes? What about these great multi-sports? I'm not talking about the Travis Hunter idea. Oh, you won the Heisman Trophy. Who gives a damn? Travis Hunter hasn't done anything at the pro level. And just because he's a guy that could play both sides of the ball in football doesn't mean he's one of these great multi-sport athletes. No, not at all. And I think of my favorites and who were the really good ones. And everybody's got the favorites. And so, look, I mean, me personally, I don't remember a better athlete than Bo Jackson. I just don't think that there was a better two-sport star, because Bo was a superstar in football. He had the fastest speed that I can ever recall at a 4.1. I think it was a 4. I want to say it was a 4.12 or something like that. Let's see, Bo Jackson. He ran a 4.13, a 40, a 4.13 40. Last time I checked, I don't ever recall anybody ever doing that. I've seen the 4.2s, the 4 this, the 4 that's, whatever. But I've never seen a 4.1, and Bo Jackson was the guy that did it. And he was so big, such a large human already. And the reality is, Bo was one of those guys. So I'm getting to this two-sport thing. Bo was one of those guys that not only had this ridiculous breakaway speed, and I mean, folks, he had ridiculous 40-yard dash times. And again, I've never seen anybody like it. But when we think about what a guy like Bo Jackson has done, you say, all right, Well, I mean, look, he's just a young man at that time, way back in the day. From where? This guy is from Bessemer, Alabama, right? Went to school in Alabama, went to Auburn in Alabama. And of course, that's for everybody over there listening in on WAUD. Over in Auburn, Alabama, of course, a nice round of applause for them. Got to make sure that we acknowledge them. Humble Atlanta Braves. And you think of what Bo did. I mean, look, from the Pro Bowl to the Heisman Trophy to the Walter Camp Award to the Chick Hardley Award to the SN Player of the Year to the UPI Player of the Year, as a unanimous All-American, consensus All-American, SEC Male Athlete of the Year, SEC Player of the Year, 3-time first-team All-SEC. That's right. Even his number 34 was retired at Auburn, War Eagle. This guy had a relatively short NFL career in the grand scheme of things. When you think of his time in the NFL, I mean, look, he only had from 1987 to 1990 in the NFL because he had the devastating injury. And you say, well, wait a minute. What happened to Bo? Well, look, the bigger problem is Bo Jackson was one of those guys that had the big injury. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it was the hip replacement. It was the hip injury. All right. So when you look at that, you say, well, Bo's career was affected by the injury to his left hip. His last football game, a playoff win over the Bengals in 1991. Actually, it was, so he went to 1991. Jackson suffered a dislocated hip following a tackle. And so I guess in the old You Don't Know Bo movie, that Bo claimed that when he realized his injury on the field, he popped his hip back into the socket, which damaged, of course, the blood vessel, supplying to the blood to the hip on top of it. While doctors did not find proof that Jackson actually reset his hip, they did discover that there was a fracture of one of Bo's hip bones, as well as a traumatic blood loss and to the thin layer of the cartilage that lines the ball and socket hip joint, and the avascular necrosis, that's the old death of a bone, and that is the old femoral head. So look, this guy really had himself one hell of an injury. So that was in the playoffs in 91. So that was the 1990 season that I had mentioned. I mean, look, he was technically forced to retire from football and was then cut by the Kansas City Royals in spring training. But Jackson would return to competing with my beloved Chicago White Sox toward the end of the 1991 season, but didn't play until the 1992 season. And when you look at what Bo was able to do in baseball, so he didn't really play in 92, but let's go to 1993 and 94. Now, 94 was the strike-shortened season. In fact, you may remember the World Series was canceled that year. And here's an interesting fun fact. Outside of the White Sox being way out in front of first place in the 1994 season, I actually have one of the baseballs from the World Series that was never played. I keep that right here behind me. Everybody on TV can see this. I have it right here on my TV set in my actual studio here. So it's one of those really cool things that never actually happened. Kind of a cool piece of baseball history, if you know what I mean. But Bo Jackson, in a full year, well, we didn't even say a full year, we'll say a half a year with the White Sox in 1993, played 85 games, 285 at-bats, 32 runs scored, 66 hits, 9 doubles, 16 homers, 45 RBIs. He had 23 walks. He hit not so good at 232, but remember, this is his first year back, slugging percentage at 433. And the next year with the California Angels, he played about 10 less games, and his numbers were pretty darn good. He was hitting 279, ended up with just a little bit less home runs, a little bit less doubles, and a little bit less hits, but he struck out a lot less. And so he was back in tune. But when Bo was playing baseball from 86 to 19, we'll call it to 1990, just in those times, Bo was hitting about 250, 270, whatnot. He was hitting 25 homers, 32 homers, 28 homers. I mean, the guy was hitting. The guy was stealing bases. He was stealing 27 bases, 26 bases, et cetera, and so forth, getting a lot of hits, over 100 hits a few years in a row. And his slugging percentage was outstanding at .523. So Bo was really doing the right stuff, and he was really making it as a baseball player, unlike these other two-sport players that we're going to get into in the next segment. And so when you think just about baseball, this guy was a really good baseball player, but he was an absolute rock star on the football field. And folks, in my life, there's only one other guy that I've ever seen with breakaway speed like Bo Jackson, and that was the great Gale Sayers. Bo Jackson had probably the most power out of a backfield of any back I've ever seen with that kind of speed. People say, well, Jim Brown. Yeah, Jim Brown, but Bo Jackson, at being about the same size, he was faster than everybody else, and he would literally run over everybody, like Jim Brown did. Walter Payton did the same thing. Walter Payton just threw people down. But Bo Jackson could not only run them over, he could throw them down, but he would leave everybody in the proverbial cloud of dust. Bo Jackson easily, in my opinion, is the best two-sport athlete that I've ever seen, and arguably one of the best of all time. But you got to give it to some of the other players, too, that we're going to get into in just a few moments. Right back here on the Sports Circus. Lots more to come, folks. Don't go anywhere. That's Bo. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, CSNCoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. Check them out, folks. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, CSNCoyotes.com, again, for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. They've been with us since the very beginning, and a nice round of applause for them. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our stations, our affiliates, network or not. And those include our friends. Thanks for waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Over in Auburn, Alabama, thanks for driving home with us on WAUD, and that is from Auburn, Alabama. And again, that is home of the Atlanta Braves, with that signal stretching from beyond Columbus, Georgia, going east all the way to Montgomery, Alabama. And thanks for joining us up and down the Midwest, throughout the heartland, out to Interstate 15, everybody driving between Southern California and here in Las Vegas, listening in on 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM on Highway Country Radio. Of course, we've got that nice promo with Vacation Buddies with them going on. Also, up and down the West Coast, up to Seattle and Anchorage, down to Honolulu at CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, everybody listening in and watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets where applicable, as well as Hotel TV, the same. And everybody streaming on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, etc. Thanks for joining us there. This is ridiculous, folks. And no, I'm not reading it off anything. I'm just doing this by memory. And also everybody watching on social media, listening in on Chicago Food Favorites. Check that out. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun group. Over 3,000 members of it now. I built it from zero. And guess what? 3,000 plus members. And you can talk about your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes, your favorite foods, and make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out that group. Nice round of applause for them. All right. Now, in case you're just tuning in and you missed the first segment, Vacation Buddies is giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you can answer a very simple trivia question. And if you know the answer, I'll give you a number right afterwards. Which NBA superstar out of these won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Michael Jordan, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, Kobe Bryant, or D, Magic Johnson? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Call Vacation Buddies, although they are not affiliated with this station. They sure want to give you a couple of nights in Vegas or in Orlando or Branson, Missouri. Call them again, 888-576-5777. All right, back to this two-sport thing, which is fun. Talking about which two-sport athlete was great, which one was superstar, which one was supersonic. And I think that Bo Jackson clearly is the standalone, head and shoulders above athlete. Now, you can make a case for Deion Sanders being one of those guys too. Now, Deion had a very good career, and we're going to go to Deion's speed. First of all, Bo Jackson ran a 4.13. That's right, a 4.13 40-yard dash. And I have to tell you, folks, that is insane speed. Never seen anything like that whatsoever. Never. And so you ask yourself, well, Deion was a pretty fast guy, and I wonder what he did. Well, tell you what, folks, if you think Bo Jackson, or better yet, if you think Deion Sanders was faster than Bo, I got bad news for you. He ran a 4.27, which is still really fast, but Deion did not run it as fast as Bo, and Bo was a lot bigger. I mean, he was a huge guy. You think of Deion being, 190-odd pounds. You think of Bo Jackson being 230-plus pounds. That's the difference. I mean, these are big men. Well, better yet, Bo is a big guy. And you say, okay, well, I believe that Bo was one hell of a baseball player. And what about Deion's baseball? Well, I'll tell you what, Deion had a pretty good baseball career, that's for sure. And when you think about his batting average, look, the guy hit 263, he had 39 career homers, 168 career RBIs, 186 stolen bases. So I would argue that let's just call it on and off, 10, it wasn't even 10 years. We'll just call them about 8 years. It was a pretty productive 8 years. It wasn't set the world afire 8 years. But if you think about what Bo could have done if he was healthy, if he didn't have the hip injury, and he came back from the hip injury, still played a couple of years of baseball after that, Bo would have clearly been head and shoulders the best two-sport athlete of our lifetimes. I mean, never mind everything that happened previous too. So, I mean, Deion had a pretty good run when you look at what he did, and you say, well, yeah, he had some solid numbers, and we'll give it to him. But he didn't have the impact on the game that Bo Jackson had. Real simple. But what Deion did differently than Bo is they're both members of the College Football Hall of Fame, but Deion also is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So let's take this as a player. 2-time Super Bowl champion, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 6-time first-team All-Pro. That's nuts. 2-time second-team All-Pro. So he's an 8-time All-Pro. That's voted on by the players and coaches. 9-time Pro Bowler. Pro Bowl doesn't mean diddly. NFL kickoff return yard leader. NFL 1990s All-Decade Team. NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. The PFWA All-Rookie Team. Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor. Jim Thorpe Award. 2-time unanimous All-American. 3rd-team All-American. Florida State Seminole jersey, retired. As a coach, 2-time SWAC champion. 2-time SWAC East Division champion. 2-time SWAC Coach of the Year. And, of course, Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. Eddie Robinson Award. The list is ridiculous. I mean, Deion really was a superstar in football. But I don't believe that Bo, think about his time in the NFL. All right, so Deion actually had from 1989, they did play at the same time, from 1989 to 2005. But there was a break. There was a break between 2000 and 2004. So let's just say there was really about 11 years. So about 11 years in football and about 8 years in baseball. Pretty good stuff. Pretty solid stuff. 1st round pick, 5th pick for Deion Sanders, and of course Bo Jackson, 1st round pick, 5th pick as well. So they're both the very same thing. And that's what a magical combination that is. So Deion in the 1989 draft, whereas Bo Jackson was in what? Oh, that's right, NFL draft 1989. 1st round, 5th pick, and then again, we have the same exact draft, same draft order, same year, same everything. So when you put these guys side by side, you say, well, gee, who was the better athlete? Well, Deion didn't have the injuries that Bo had. And so you got to say, well, I don't know. I mean, geez, it's a coin toss. But both of these guys were superstars, period. And truly superstars. So when we think of these most, I don't know, I guess the alleged 10 best multi-sport athletes. And so we'll go all the way from number 9 and we'll go forward. And so they say number 9 being thebiglead.com. They have Tony Gonzalez. He did play basketball and football at the University of California, averaged over 6 points per game in 3 seasons of basketball, which is not very good. But then again, he's a big guy, and he probably didn't play as a guard or a shooting guard or a point guard. Or maybe he was just more on the defensive side, but also was an All-American in football. And, of course, he'll go down as the top tight end of all time in pro football, making 14 Pro Bowls, having more receiving yards than any other tight end in history. Sorry, Travis Kelce. Sorry, all the others. Tony Gonzalez is the gold standard. And so number 8, the big lead had is Brian Jordan. We had Brian on the show. Brian was one hell of a baseball player, too. This guy was a starting safety for Atlanta when he walked away from the NFL after 3 seasons to focus exclusively on baseball. It worked out that Brian Jordan actually went on to play Major League Baseball for 15 years and finished top 20 in MVP voting in 3 different seasons. Brian Jordan, one hell of an athlete. If I'm not mistaken, Brian also was a switch hitter too. Just one hell of an athlete. Charlie Ward was another guy. Charlie was an interesting story because Charlie was a Heisman Trophy winner back in 1993. And of course, that was with Florida State. He played for Bobby Bowden, but he played basketball for 4 seasons, of course, and he was not going to be drafted in the first round. So he decided to focus on basketball. So he said football could wait. And Charlie actually was selected with the 26 picks by the New York Knicks in the 1994 draft. And he went on to have a solid 11-year career in the NBA as well. Charlie Ward was actually a better basketball player than he was a football player, and he won the Heisman Trophy. Figure that one out. Remember Kirk Gibson with the elbow pump, the fist pump, and all that stuff? Well, Kirk Gibson came in at number 6 by the big lead. Most famous, of course, for his Game 1 home run off Dennis Eckersley at a World Series, whatever. But many people don't realize that before he was a baseball player, a baseball star that is, he was a college football star at Michigan State, and he still ranks in the top 5 in both receiving yards and receiving touchdowns at Michigan State and was an All-American back in 1978. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2017. When we come back, we're going to finish the top 5 here. This is really interesting. A lot of people didn't know this, and some of the stuff I didn't even know. Anyway, back here in a few on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
You'll get your chance, smart guy. I gotta barbecue you nitwit.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Certainly.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus many others. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. One of those, our favorite, is Al's number one Italian beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. And if you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. They are the creators of the Italian beef sandwich, a famous sandwich, and man, is it good. Mercy. It is something special. And if you don't know what it is, if you think it's a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, no, it's not. No, it's much different. It is a sandwich. Actually, it takes about almost a full day to prepare the beef itself, unlike the fried Philly cheesesteak sandwich, where basically you just throw a pork cut of meat on top of a flat top, put some peppers and onion in there, and then they slap in some cheese whiz, put it on a bun, and send you on your way. Whereas it takes almost 22 hours, if I'm not mistaken, to fully prepare the top round and bottom round roast for the Italian beef sandwich. It's such a different story, folks. If you don't know about it, read about it at alsbeef.com. The creators are Al's Beef. They've been in business. Their store's been in business since 1938, but they created and invented that sandwich back 117 years ago. Very different situation. I'm rambling about it because I can, and it is amazing. Check them out again at alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. You know who you are. That round of applause is for you. All right, so picking up where we left off with these two-way athletes. They can play two-sport athletes, whatnot. Our last one, actually, we went to number 9. It was Tony Gonzalez, best tight end ever. Brian Jordan, one hell of a baseball player and a football player as well. And then Charlie Ward was actually better in basketball than he was as a Heisman Trophy winning football player. Then we said Kirk Gibson. Of course, people didn't really know, generally speaking, I've got a lot of messages on this one, that people didn't know Kirk Gibson was a football star, college football star in the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, going up to number 5 in the big lead list is Bob Hayes. If you don't know who he is, I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. Look, we've seen plenty of track athletes try to become football players, but no one did it as well as Bullet Bob Hayes. And in fact, he dominated the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo, winning the gold in the 100 meters and putting together a blistering final leg to complete the comeback for gold in the 4x100. And then he ended his track career and joined the Dallas Cowboys after playing at Florida A&M in college. And he led the NFL in touchdown catches, and each of his first 2 seasons had 10-plus touchdowns in 5 different seasons and averaged 20 yards per catch. That's crazy. And as a matter of fact, Hayes was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame after he had passed away in 2009. But this guy was doing this with the touchdown catches and whatnot in a running era. Not like today. It's a passing game, pass, throw. And you don't see a whole hell of a lot of running. But back in the day, it was a running league. And so what this guy did was almost unthinkable way back in the 1960s. And boy, he was really doing it. And boy, you got to give it up for a guy like him. I mean, he really, really did it. Now, coming in at number 4 was the great Dave Winfield. And rest his soul, Dave, we just lost Dave. And boy, this guy was a supersonic superstar. I knew his nephew, John. And I heard some great stories about Dave. My friends were friends with Dave as well. I didn't know him personally. And I've got his number in my phone book, but I guess I can't really call heaven right now. But nonetheless, Dave Winfield was really a star at the University of Minnesota in both baseball and basketball. He started on the basketball team that won the Big Ten title in 1972. He won Most Outstanding Player at the College World Series for his performance as a pitcher that included a complete game shutout. And he was then drafted in 3 sports, 4th overall by the San Diego Padres, 79th by the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA draft, and even drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the 17th round. That's for the great Dave Winfield. Now, of course, another guy that everybody has heard of, and we mentioned him earlier in the show, and that was the great Jim Brown. Now, Jim Brown, of course, was a ridiculous athlete and someone who was way ahead of his time. In fact, at college, at Syracuse, he started football, basketball, lacrosse, and track. He was the first team All-American in lacrosse as a senior, finishing with 41 goals. He was a consensus All-American in football, somehow finishing 5th in the Heisman voting, and then he went on to dominate the NFL for a decade, as everybody knows, leading the league in rushing yards 8 different times before retiring at the age of 29. I mean, look, this guy sits atop many, many lists of the greatest football players of all time. How Jim Brown is number 3 on this list, I'll never know. Let's take a look at number 2. Oh, that's right. We talked about this guy. That was prime time. Deion Sanders, drafted by the Royals out of high school, but went on to Florida State, where he played on the baseball team, ran track, and was a 2-time All-American in football. From 1989 to 1995, Deion played in both Major League Baseball and the NFL each season. And he appeared in the World Series and the Super Bowl. That's nuts. He never played in 100 regular season games in Major League Baseball games, though, in a year because of his football commitments, but made 6 All-Pro. He made the All-Pro 6 times, as I mentioned, as a first-teamer and 2-time second-team All-Team, or second-time All-Pro. Whatever, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, listen, it's live, folks. Anything could happen. He's considered one of the best corners of all time, but not the best. No, he's not the best. Now, on this list, according to the Big League, we also forgot to mention number 10, and that was Kenny Lofton. Kenny Lofton was a 4-year basketball player at the University of Arizona, very good basketball player and a great program, playing on the 1988 team that reached the Final Four and 1989 team that was number 1 in the nation entering the NCAA tournament. He also started playing minor league baseball with the Astros and would make his Major League debut, and he went on for 17 years in Major League Baseball, 6-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves, and led the American League in stolen bases 5 different times. That's the great Kenny Lofton. Boy, that guy, man, could he play. Nonetheless, talking about the number 1 two-way player, I mentioned it earlier, and it is Bo Jackson. According to the Big Lead, the Bo Knows campaign was one of the most memorable and best sport advertising campaign ever, and it was all driven by Bo Jackson's freakish athletic ability. I mean, it was insane, folks. Now, mind you, this is by the Big League. This is not me. I could go on for a week talking about Bo Jackson. But Bo Jackson, he did have that big hip injury, and this guy was an absolute superstar. Of course, he won the Heisman Trophy, was the first overall pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but stunned everybody when he opted to start his professional career in baseball with the Royals. Right? Just like Deion Sanders was drafted by the Royals. Interesting, huh? He then began playing for the Raiders about a year later and was an all-star and a Pro Bowler in both sports. Who's done that? Last time I checked, nobody. In 1989, he led off the All-Star game with a home run to dead center field. So you could talk about all these great players until the cows come home. And you could say, well, you know, they all deserve a round of applause. So let's do that. However, there's one guy that's missing on this list, and he is a friend of the sports circus and a very good friend of mine, and he is the only 5-time NCAA champion. He did it in 3 years. He won 3 College World Series at the University of Southern California, and he won 2 NCAA football championships. Was cheated out of the Heisman Trophy because they didn't count his last game where he piled up about 350 yards against Notre Dame. And that's the great Anthony Davis. Now, if you don't know about this guy, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He had a similar fate as a guy by the name of Bo Jackson. Now, Anthony Davis was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles. He was a really good center fielder for the University of Southern California under the right team, the right everything, the right system. But he was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ended up opting for the World Football League, just like other great players and guys like Larry Zonka and giant names, huge names in the NFL, Paul Warfield. They all went over to where? They went to the World Football League. And so Anthony Davis was unfortunately excluded from this list of great two-way players. Why? I'll never know. I will never know because now I talk to this guy on a regular basis. He is our regular football analyst for the show, one of them anyway. And I'll tell you that not only the history and the stories and everything was incredible, but this was a guy that actually played 3 sports, but somehow they left him off of this list, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't even understand it because this guy had more all-purpose yards than damn near everybody else. That's how he ended up in the College Football Hall of Fame. And the guy also could play quarterback, but they didn't let him. There was some issues in there because of the color of his skin, as he describes. And unfortunately, they didn't want that situation as it's understood from way back in the day. But the Anthony Davis was one of those guys that should certainly appear on this list of top 10 two-way players. He was one of those guys. And you know what? Last I checked, I believe there was a guy by the name of Ted Williams. I think he was one of those guys too. Anyway, back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
What does he think I am, an imbecile?
Certainly. All right, break it up.
everybody. This is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, again, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests or prior guest recorded shows, which can be found on all streaming platforms. Also, check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items there. There's a tab right across the top of the page, and it says store, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, coats, pants, sweatpants, you name it, they're there. Coffee mugs, travel mugs, mouse pads, pillows. Hey, listen, a shameless plug for the show. We got to pay our bills too, so check it out, folks. Mention my name, and I'll give you an extra 10% off of everything you pick up at thesportscircus.com. All right, on this interesting show of two-way sport athletes, three sport athletes, and all this other fun stuff. I mean, look, there are so many factors with all of this, but there's some interesting bits about some of the rhetoric that's online regarding, I guess, some of the information seems a little bit skewed. And so I found something on Ranker.com. They talk about the fastest NFL players of all time. And this is troubling to me. So they have this alleged list, and this is brand spanking new, folks. It just came out. They say this list is comprised of the fastest NFL players of all time ranked by overall speed and talent. The NFL measures straight line speed at the yearly NFL Combine, with John Ross breaking the 40-yard dash record in 2017 with blazing 4.22 second dash speed. Okay, fine. So they say 4.22. Okay, whatever. And that's pretty darn fast, I'll have you know. So the speed does not always translate on the field, as we know. And so when we think about fast guys, right? And I mentioned, of course, the great Bo Jackson. And when I mentioned Bo Jackson, well, let's face it, folks, I also mentioned some other guys too. And so Deion Sanders had a 4.27. All right, was there anybody faster than Bo Jackson? Well, last I checked, there was. Now, in case you don't know, there was a guy by the name of Don Beebe. Now, Don, again, a friend and also a friend of the show. Don's been on the show several times. Don actually had faster speed than Bo Jackson. Don Beebe ran a 4.2140. And so the reason I bring that up is because the great Don Beebe, who was the first guy to ever appear in 6 Super Bowls, that's right, he actually lost the first 4 with the Buffalo Bills. And he was the guy, in case you're wondering, you remember that play with Leon Lett, when Leon did the scoop and score kind of thing, or he tried to score anyway, and he was caught out of nowhere by somebody? Well, that somebody in the Super Bowl was Don Beebe, who came all the way out of nowhere and tracked down Leon Lett and stripped the ball from Leon at the 1-foot line right before he crossed the goal line. And he thought he was going to get an easy touchdown, of course, with that scoop and score. But no, he didn't. Sorry, kid. It was Don Beebe that came in and stripped the ball. It's funny, those two are actually very good friends today. It's funny how strange events like that could actually bring people together. But the reason I bring that up, because look, Don Beebe had faster speed than Deion Sanders. And Don Beebe had faster speed than the alleged John Ross breaking the 40-yard dash record in 2017. They say with a blazing 4.22. Sorry, Don Beebe had a 4.21. And there's your real champion when it comes to that. Oh, by the way, we forgot the great Bo Jackson with a 4.13. That's right. So you take all these, and I've done searches high and low. They said, well, these are the fastest guys, and they always go back to this John Ross, and they go to Tyreek Hill. I'm going to get to these guys in a minute here. The problem is the numbers are skewed. The stats are skewed. Well, we have this, then we have that. But the times speak for themselves. And here's an interesting thing. So I asked Don about this, and you can go back and find the show for Don Beebe on the Sports Circus. And let me think back to when Don was on the show and he talked about the speed. Because I asked him, I said, well, hey, it's God-given talent. And you think about speed. Well, hey, speed is speed. And I mean, if you have the ability to run lightning fast, he goes, no, I actually teach speed. So he had the Speed Academy. Imagine that. So you can actually teach people to run faster, which I find very hard to believe until he actually explained it. And so for me, I was like, well, I mean, that was a real revelation as far as I saw it. Now, Don Beebe had been on this show. As a matter of fact, Don was on, I'll tell you what, he was on back. You could go back and listen. September 6th of 2018. So that's a solid 1,600 shows ago. And you could listen to Don and he'll talk about speed and speed coach. But Don talked about this during the show back in 2018. And he went to a little school. Now, he's from Aurora, Illinois, just west of where I'm from. I'm from Oak Park, Illinois, and suburban Chicago. So he's from far western suburban Chicago. And so Don was one of those really, really fast guys. He ended up going to school in Nebraska, a little school called Chadron State. And somebody had said, this is before the internet and everything else, somebody had said in one of these recruiting calls, because that's how they did it back in the day, hey, we got a guy that's really, really fast. I mean, really fast. And in fact, the Buffalo Bills showed some interest. And they said, what is the speed of that guy? And they said he was running a 4.240. They said, get him on an airplane. And they called him. They said, look, if you can run a 4.240 like they're saying, we will sign you right on the spot. Don takes his trip up to Buffalo, New York. And guess what he did? He ran a 4.240. They didn't believe it. They had to recheck and re-time him, and he did it again. And there it was. That's how Don Beebe, with his ridiculous speed, faster than Deion Sanders, they said, all right, kid, you are now a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. How do you like them out? That's pretty good stuff. It's a great story. And Don would tell you that. And Don actually has a really cool company called Bid on Beef. Check that out, Bid on Beef. Nice little plug, a shameless plug for Don because Don's a buddy. But my point at all of this is that this whole fastest player in the NFL, combine crap, whatever. Well, John Ross, he ran a 4.22, and that's 2017 breaking the record. Now, what record did it break? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, I don't really know because Don ran a 4.21. Bo Jackson ran a 4.13. So what record did John Ross really break? Well, let's go and let's take a look at their people, their top 10. Let's go from number 10. Never mind all the others. We don't have time for the others. So John Ross actually came in at number 10 on this rank right here. They say John Ross bursts out of the scene with his blistering speed, immediately turning heads with his ability to stretch defense and create separation at will. Although his NFL career is still young, Ross's raw speed and potential have already garnered him comparisons to some of the greats of the game. The impact of his lightning fast acceleration and breakaway ability has been felt by opposing teams, who must always account for his presence on the field and the game-changing plays that he can result in. So he's from Long Beach, played for the New York Football Giants, played wide receiver. But guess what, John? You came in 10th on this list. Yes, this list from who? From Ranker.com. That's right. So even though you're allegedly their fastest, well, you don't rank above Deshaun Jackson. And Deshaun Jackson, they say, his breathtaking speed and quick twitch acceleration made him one of the NFL's most reliable deep threats during his prime. armed with breakaway speed and equally impressive ability to change directions seamlessly, Jackson proved time and time again that he was a game-breaking talent, capable of turning the tide in his team's favor in the blink of an eye. And his uncanny skills set his left and guess what? Indelible mark on the sport, setting the standard for what means to be truly explosive and an offensive weapon. That's what they say. I don't know. And even grammatically, they're a disaster. Now, somehow, Devin Hester, who I believe Devin Hester was arguably the most elusive guy to ever carry a football in my lifetime. Devin Hester came in 8th, and they say Devin Hester, widely considered the greatest return man in the NFL history, possessed an uncanny ability to bring stadiums to their feet, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Devin Hester changed the game. In fact, they moved the kickoff line up to create more touchbacks because Devin Hester was running too much back. That's it. But Devin Hester did not outgain the great Brian Mitchell. Brian, again, a friend of the show. Brian is the only guy who had a Brian Mitchell in total yards in the NFL is Jerry Rice. Why Brian Mitchell's not in the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I'll never know. Chris Johnson comes in number 6. And of course, they say, well, affectionately known as CJ2K, whatever. Chris Johnson, he comes in number 7. Randy Moss comes in number 6. And they say, well, he had freakish speed and all this other stuff. Randy was one hell of a player, born in West Virginia. And hey, the guy was good. He was a little bit of a head case for a while there, but Randy Moss turned out to be one hell of a player. Bob Hayes, who played way back in the day. Remember we talked about Bob Bullet Hayes. This guy comes in number 5 as the 10 fastest players of all time. Darrell Green, who actually should have come in a little bit faster than that, a little bit above that. Darrell Green, his blazing speed, according to, of course, Ranker, and exceptional cover skills made him a perennial lockdown corner, feared by even the most skilled wide receivers. I think Darrell Green was the best corner. He and Woodson, actually probably Woodson, I'll give it to Woodson, Rod Woodson, probably the best corner that ever played the game. Bo Jackson they have coming in at 3rd as the fastest player of all time, which actually had the fastest speed of a 4.13. Imagine that. So these guys, rankers, I don't know what they're eating, what they're doing, but I'll tell you what, some of that funny stuff, I want some of that too, if that's the case, if you know what I mean. But anyway, they've got Deion Sanders, ironically, above Bo Jackson for speed, which makes 0 sense because Deion wasn't faster, and Tyreek Hill they have as the fastest guy, which he certainly wasn't the fastest guy. So look, there's a lot of ranks out there, and as you look at them, my point is, when you read the rhetoric that's out there, they don't even have Bo Jackson as the top guy being the fastest guy. They have somebody else, just like in this one, Tyreek Hill. Then they talk about records that don't even exist in the grand scheme of things because really it was Bo Jackson's speed that set the standard. So don't believe any of that crap. It's all rhetoric. It's all nonsense. And guess what? We're out of here. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, thanks for watching the Sports Circus and listening to the show. So long, everyone.
Leave him alone. All right, break it up. Don't you give me none of your back talk. Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.